Do you think these really look like pickles? I don't know. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Stephen. That would be me. And it's episode number 468 on August the 24th. Yeah, had to think about that for a minute. 2026. And before I forget to remind you of this, next week's Monday Morning Coffee with Stephen will be a live episode. So that means that you are welcome to come onto YouTube, click on the live splash screen for that, and that will begin at 8 a.m. next Monday morning. And you know I do one of these live the last Monday of every month. And unfortunately, yeah, because that means summer's almost gone, next Monday is the last Monday of the month of August. So, yep, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is a YouTube Live. And I hope many of you will be able to make it because really I need you in order to run a live. Yeah, because we go back and forth. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at, well, first of all, we're going to have coffee. Okay, and let's take a look at what I have been working on. Little scratchy throat this morning. It's still cool here this morning, but we'll come to that. Okay, let's go to this. Yes, this is my Christmas table runner, which I made. It's kind of on the wide side. This picture makes it look a little bigger than it actually is. But that's okay because, you know, I sometimes find table runners are a little bit on the narrow side. And if you put it on a table to dress it up when you're having company come over for dinner or something, a lot of it gets covered up with dishes and things like that. And no one gets to see the real beauty of what you've created. So this one, I don't think they'll have any problem. Now, this was made with somewhat random blocks that I purchased from OESD. They were not put together as a table runner. They were just there. They were blocks, these with these poinsettia design, and you do with them what you wish. And so this is what I wished. So there were three different blocks. Four different blocks. And yeah, it went together pretty easy once I got all the blocks stitched out. Now, they did take a while. They're not huge blocks. I think they measure about 4.5 inches square, with the exception of the longer ones. But nevertheless, they still took about an hour and a half to stitch out each one of them. And is there applique in this? Yes, there is. There is some in the hoop applique, and then the rest is embroidery thread. So I think it turned out pretty nice. The only thing is I forgot to do this. Not that it's a major problem, but I would have liked to have done it. I didn't do any quilting in the border pieces, the red border. I usually do. I usually just use my walking foot for that and do straight line or serpentine kind of, design. And it does kind of hold your layers together a little better. Now, these layers aren't going to come apart because I did stitch in the ditch around each of the blocks. And I use invisible thread when I do these because, you know, it's really not stitch in the ditch. It's more about, you know, stitch close to the ditch kind of things, because I don't know about you, but I can never get it dead into the middle of the ditch in the join between the blocks. So if I use invisible thread, hey, nobody can see that. And it works out fine. Now on the back, you will see a light outline of those blocks from doing the stitch in the ditch, but that's okay. And again, because I'm using invisible thread, it's more of an impression than it is an actual, you know, design. And usually nobody's interested in the back of your table runner, right? So you don't have to worry about anything there. So yeah, it's done. What's going to happen with it? Well, I don't know. Little frog. I might use it. I might, well, right now it's in my gift basket. And I'm sorry about my voice. It's giving me a little problem here. But okay, so I'm going to show you the next thing. And here's the next one that I want to show you, and it's a book bag. Now, this is done in the hoop as well. It is a applique and embroidery project, and I did all the panels back quite some time ago, at least a month and a half ago or so, maybe even 2 months, and they've just been sitting, waiting for me to sew it all together. So the other day, I got up in the morning and I decided today's the day. I'm going to sew the bag together. And I did. And I sewed it together wrong. You don't see that right now because I had to take it all apart. I put some of the books in the wrong order. And you would say, well, would it really matter? Yeah, it does. Because you see those flowers at the top? Those had to line up and they didn't. Now, if you look at it really close, the flowers still do not line up perfectly at the joint. And this is a problem when you do these kind of things that involve multiple pieces that you have to sew together. I have shown you in the past on the Idiot Quilter how I sew one of these together, and I use pins, and I try to mark up the points on the embroidery pieces where they're going to line up. But it never comes out perfect. I re-sewed those flowers at the top a couple of times. I got them close, but they're not dead on in some cases. And the reason for that is because your fabric kind of squishes down. It's like when you quilt something. When you quilt, your quilt gets smaller because of the stitches, because, you know, the stitches are pulling in the fabric towards the center of your creation. Well, something similar happens here with embroidery as well. And, you know, it's just the nature of the beast. It doesn't really bother me. And of course, when you give it to somebody, they may or may not even notice. I mean, I've had sometimes a few pieces, depending on the design, where they have lined up perfectly. And, you know, I do a little happy dance when that happens. This one got a semi-happy dance because it's not that bad. And I'm pointing it out to you right now, but when you first looked at that, did you notice it? Probably not. And the person I'm giving this to, because this is going to be a gift, will probably not notice either. And if they did, they should be polite enough not to say anything. Let them do better, right? But anyways, yeah, it's all done. It's fully lined. The pattern did call for putting an interior pocket into it. I skipped that part. I decided not to bother. It is sometimes nice to have an interior pocket, but I don't know about you, but I find that I don't really use an interior pocket on this kind of bag, on a tote bag. And sometimes they just get in the way. But my excuse for not doing it is laziness. Basically laziness. Now this one's the handles. They told you to do it a little different than what I've done on tote bags before. Usually on a tote bag, the handles get sewn into the inside of the bag and then you pull them out and you don't see the bottoms of the handles. They're embedded inside the bag. But this one did call for putting them on the outside, and I decided to use my black webbing. I've got various colors of this webbing. I like using them for handles on bags because they're sturdy and they're fast. You don't have to make the handles. And that's what I did here. So overall, I'm pleased with the way it came out. And I think the person I'm giving this to is a real book reader. So I thought this would be appropriate for her. Well, why am I keeping it a secret who it's going to be? She doesn't watch my channel. This is going to be one of my Christmas gifts this year to my hairdresser. Yeah. And I have given her bags before, and she seems to really love them. So I thought this one would be kind of nice. And, you know, she doesn't have to use it as a book bag, but because she is a reader, I thought it was appropriate. So, yeah. So there's another Christmas gift done. And it's not quite the end of August yet. So I'm moving along quite quickly. Now, having said all of that about Christmas presents and things like that, you can see right behind me, there's something there that looks like a bunch of little tiny tiles, and indeed that's what it is. This is going to be another table runner, but this is a Tracy Perks pattern. If you're not familiar with Tracy Perks, you should check out her YouTube channel. I have done some of her patterns before, and her style is all of her patterns are done as squares and half square triangles. That's all there is in them. And you can move along with them quite fast. Her instructions are all laid out on a grid, and they shows you exactly where all the squares go. And it's pretty, they're pretty easy to do. They move along fairly fast because, you know, you do a lot of chain stitching because, as I said, it's just squares. In the case of this, they're 2-inch squares and 2-inch half square triangles, but very easy to do. I have it laid out there because I've made 2 of these. I didn't have cut enough fabric to be able to use exactly the same color scheme in, well, it's the same color scheme but different patterning in the second one, which you can't see. It's off screen here at the moment, but that's okay. It gives variety, and I'm going to make a third one. At least cut them out, get the half square triangles made, lay it all out on my design wall, and then I'll start the sewing process. And really all you do is just go row by row by row. So it goes together fairly quickly at that point. So yeah, she has a book out, and I talked about it a week or 2 ago as well. And this pattern comes from that particular book as well. You can get that book. It's called Mega Christmas, the festive book, Mega, darn, I can't remember exactly. Go on to Amazon if you're interested in the book, put in Tracy Perks, and you'll find it. And yeah, it's a great book. If you're looking for some Christmas ideas that you can put together pretty quick, check it out. Okay. So, what's coming up next? Well, let's talk about some comments from last week's episode. A couple here I want to highlight. Elizabeth said, send all the goodies to the thrift stores that you honestly don't need. I was talking about purging my sewing room. Going to give you an update on that in a few minutes. Yeah, you can. I've got a bone to pick with thrift stores lately, and later on, near the end of today's vlog, I am going to talk about what that pet peeve is. But yes, under normal circumstances, I would probably do that. However, the thrift store closest to me is called Value Village, and I have a bone to pick with Value Village. There's not much value in Value Village. I mean, I thought that, well, they were supporting Diabetes Canada with monies they made. Yeah, you go in there, and if you're looking for something on the cheap side, a bargain, you're not going to find it anymore. They charge for their clothing especially almost as much as what the original piece cost. And you know, a lot of people that shop in thrift stores are people who are, you know, they've got to watch their money. They don't have a lot. And I think that's just highway robbery. And I've been doing some research, and it's not just Value Village that's gotten this way. And I think part of the cause of it is thrifting. Everybody got into the whole movement of thrifting. You know, people do it for various reasons. You know, they want to recycle things, or, you know, they're looking for fabric from other sources to make interesting creations or whatever. But because of that, and it's the old law of supply and demand, they become popular. So these stores have decided to up their prices for that. And that's closing out the people who these stores, in my opinion, were originally designed for. They were designed to help out people who are on the lower income scale, you know. So, yeah. So I do not donate. Well, that's not completely true. I try not to donate to, if I can find other outlets, to this particular thrift store, Value Village, because of that. Also, they're owned by a major corporation, and yeah, you know where the profits are really going in there. How much of it is actually going to Diabetes Canada? I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. Okay, Rachel wrote, you could make your own shelves, bits of wood, then you could 3D print brackets. Could have unique brackets. Oh, You could make cube brackets, even more storage, not even wood, 3D shelf as well. Okay, yes, Rachel, I could. And I have. I have done that in the past. But for this project, I needed something much stronger than what I could probably get out of a 3D print. And so that's why I'm going to wooden storage shelves from IKEA for that, which I do not have up yet because we have not yet put them together. And when I say we, I mean Walter. With that, once those get put together, then yes, we'll get them up and we'll start. Now I have started doing some reorganization down here, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But anyways, thank you both for your comments, and please do make comments. I get so much benefit from the comments in so many ways. First of all, I enjoy reading what you have to say. I know other subscribers, if they're not, they should be reading all the comments because you have a lot of tips and tricks that are really useful in there. And also I get inspired by what you write. So yeah, please, if you've got something to say, put it in the comments. If you have a question, put it in the comments. I read everything. Okay, so what's been happening at home and elsewhere? Well, okay. The elephant's in the room, you know. And Walter and I talked extensively yesterday about the situation between Canada and the US and the breakdown of the talks between our two countries. So I'm really not going to go over that discussion again. It's just to say that right now I'm feeling very, very sad about our relationship with our American neighbors. You were good friends. You were. And then the Great Orange Pumpkin took that away. And I don't think it's ever going to be the same again, or at least not for many, many, many years. It might even be generational. I don't know. But in the news, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, and I don't know how you wouldn't know. Well, I do know how you wouldn't know. Well, let me say this. First of all, U.S. tariffs take effect, okay? Following the midnight deadline on August 21st, U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping 50% tariffs went into effect on nearly $28 billion to $30 billion worth of Canadian exports. The levies hit hundreds of goods, including plywood, appliances, dairy, liquor, and hockey gear. Okay, you know, you got to always be careful about headlines. They're like clickbait on YouTube. Okay. First of all, they're talking about, yes, the tariffs went into effect. They went into effect. The deadline was originally there was a deadline before August the 21st. Trump extended it for 3 days. They were all madly negotiating, supposedly. Negotiation is a very loose word in this case because it's really not negotiations. No, it was states Trump's administration trying to tell us as Canadians what we were going to do. That's not negotiating. That's demanding. The news is talking about, and this makes it sound worse than it is, actually. Now, it is bad. But $28 billion to $30 billion worth of Canadian exports. You know, that number keeps changing depending on what source you read. Yes, it's a large number no matter what. But the things that it's on are a lot of those things like hockey sticks, hockey gear, they're saying now. Well, before they were saying hockey sticks. You know, hockey gear takes into everything. I'm not going to say this is blowing things out of proportion. It's not really blowing it out of proportion. Yep, it's bad. It's bad. But what's worse about these tariffs and stuff is, see, we as Canadians, we will tough this out. This is not going to bring us to our knees by any stretch of the imagination. It is, however, going to affect the average American consumer greatly. Prices on everything are going to go up. The United States does not manufacture a lot of things that you use every day. Yes, the steel industry, the energy industry, all those kind of things, those are biggies and those affect us all in one form or another. But your food prices are going to go up. They already have. They've gone up in both of our countries, mainly because of Trump. But, for us as in Canada, we are diversifying our portfolio in who we deal with. We are affected, as I've said, but it's not bringing us to our knees. However, this is going to have a greater effect on the average American. You may not see the effect of these latest tariffs for a month or 2 months yet, but you will see it. You will see it. And it goes beyond this. The bond market, okay, not the stock market, the bond market, which basically the United States has a huge deficit right now. Absolutely huge, in like 400 and some odd trillion dollars. And what that means is if the bond market, in order the United States, and this happens with all countries, the United States borrows money. By selling bonds. So other countries buy those bonds, and that money goes into the United States coffers. However, if something like these tariffs happen and whatnot, the bond market becomes unstable. Now, I'm oversimplifying this, okay? And I'm not going to pretend that I completely understand all the ramifications of this. Walter should be here. He does understand it better than I do. But the gist of it is that some countries, when they think that another country's bonds that they have bought are unstable, they will sell them back. That means the country that issued them has to pay out the money. It's a loan. It's basically a loan, okay? And that causes interest rates to go up. Now, what happens when interest rates go up? And this is where it affects individual consumers. If you have a mortgage, if you have a car loan, if you have any other kind of loan, if you're carrying a balance on your credit cards, all of those are going to go up. And with the way price of housing is, for example, these days, people may be trying to get into the housing market to buy their first home, young people, or people who have mortgages and they have it, maybe on a variable interest rate, and they just qualified for that amount. And so, if the slightest change, if the interest rates go up, they're in fear of possibly not making their mortgage payments and losing their home. So, yeah, it affects everybody. Now, Trump is trying to tell everybody that the economy's never been better for the United States, the best in the world. Well, we know he lies, and he's lying here, because what they're doing is, to make it look like their bonds are secure, they are paying off some of those bonds by borrowing in another area. So they're basically borrowing from Paul to pay Peter, or borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, whatever you want to call it. That kind of thing. It's artificial. It's not good. It's not good. These tariffs directly contribute to that situation, and that's what I mean. It will trickle down relatively quickly, but it may be a month or two, to the actual consumer. And that's going to affect a vast majority of American citizens. Whereas in Canada, it's a little different situation. Yes, it will affect us, but not to the degree. And he's making it sound like Canada, we've lost on this one. No, we haven't. We've actually won. The world is watching Canada right now, especially our federal government led by Mark Carney, our Prime Minister. He is a world leader, and they're watching. They're watching to see, because after all, we for years and years and years our trade has been so tied together with the United States. We have worked so closely together that this is a major breach of trust, a major breach in the financial world as well. So yeah, they're seeing how we handle it and what happens. And believe me, they're going to come after the United States too. They're a little bit chicken right now that they're letting us do all the heavy work. And we are up for that. Now, what's our answer to it? Well, basically, they went right to the wire for the deadline and to negotiate. And then they drop in some other conditions that were not talked about beforehand. Probably were not a complete surprise to the Canadian negotiation team, because we went in with our eyes wide open. Okay, we had a strategy. Whereas Trump's negotiators were all over the place. They were not organized. The left hand didn't know what the right hand wanted to do because they had no direction from Trump. Trump just wants to own Canada. And because we're nasty people, he wants to penalize us as well. Trump does not think with a brain. I'm not sure what he's using to think with. I was going to say he's an emotional. I don't even know if he's that, because I don't know if the man has a heart. Really not. We know he doesn't have a moral compass. So, yeah. So, talks broke off because the Americans, Trump's negotiating team, wanted too much. They basically wanted to take control of our economic system, meaning that if they didn't want us to make any deals with any other countries in the world on trade without their approval. Well, if you're going to control a country's ability to make deals with other countries, you control that country. So essentially you own the country. And that's really what he wants. He wants us to be the 51st state. Not going to happen, as you have heard me say many times before. And we as a country are very united on this whole issue. In our premiers, even though the federal government is the liberal government, provincial governments, some are liberal, some are conservative, some are NDP. However, they're all on the same page. With the exception of Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, shame on her. She has been waffling, and this is not a time to waffle. We do not want any cracks in our foundation whatsoever. Team Canada is a thing, and she needs to get her act together, because she'll be selling her province right down the tubes. So our Prime Minister recalled the team at that point because there was no point to continue, because Trump wanted our negotiation team to just bend over and be spanked. Not going to happen. So he has declared dollar for dollar retaliation. So he says Prime Minister Carney announced that Canada will retaliate with equal dollar for dollar counter tariffs targeting American steel, dairy, electronics, and agricultural equipment. This is going to get ya. These measures are scheduled to take effect on September 8th, just after Labor Day. Now, if the roles were reversed and this was Trump doing this, they would be in effect right now, because that's how Trump works. Carney is allowing for a little cooling off time. He's letting the situation settle and sink in to the powers that be in the United States. He's left a door open here to continue negotiations on a much more reasonable basis. He's given them a deadline of September 8th. Well, Trump can assign deadlines, so can Mark Carney, and he has. And of course, our premiers are, now I like this headline, premiers divided but mostly united. Okay, what does that tell you? That, again, the media is also an enemy for all of us on all issues. The media, if it bleeds, it leads. They spin things. Do they tell outright lies? No, but the way they tell the information is not really the absolute, just the facts, ma'am, kind of a thing. So it says most provincial premiers expressed strong support for Ottawa's decision to reject a bad deal. However, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith expressed deep disappointment over fallout and urged both nations to immediately resume talks to protect cross-border businesses. And this is what I was saying about her. She's in love with Trump. Then she needs to move to the United States and become American. Bye-bye. Yeah. She's deeply disappointed. Like, who gives a shit what she thinks? She's got her own problems with her own province out there, with a handful of radical individuals who want to separate. Yeah, there's a bunch of people that don't know what the hell they're talking about with that on so many levels. But of course, the media spins it and makes it sound like, ooh, this is a really, major, major movement here. Oh, it's going to cause division within the country. Oh, no, it's not that many. No, no. They have done different polls of the Albertan people. The vast majority, 75 to 80% of the ones that were polled, said, no, we're Canadians. We're not separating. No, no. The only reason she does this is for selfish reasons, just like Trump. She's very much like Trump. She wants to keep in power. You know, when she does retire, it's a cushy little pension plan that they have for premiers. And she is catering to the people who basically were able to put her into power in the first place. And they're the extreme right. You know, think Republican. Okay, for those of you that are not Canadian. Yeah. Personally, she needs to go, I think. She is a nasty piece of work. Egotistical. Only cares about herself. Oops, did I just describe Trump? I think I did. Yeah, on this. So anyways, no. Our provincial premiers are all on the same page. She's on the page too. It's just she's more of a footnote at the moment than main text. So yeah. And you know, it is nice to see because even the opposition party is with Team Canada on this. In fact, part of the negotiating team was made up of members of the opposition party. Carney's a very clever politician. He knew he needed to have their input as well. We have to have a united front against the Great Orange Pumpkin here. So, yeah. I'm very proud of our premiers, with the exception of that one. You know, they may have differences in politics and the whole bit, but this is not time to be bipartisan. This is time to be united. So we shall see over the coming weeks what happens from here. I pretty much sure he'd never admit it. None of his team will either, but Trump is filling his diaper right now. You know, he poked the bear, as I said yesterday on our live. You don't poke the bear. Okay, let's move on to what's happening at home. Well, I already talked about my new shelving for my fat quarters and that, but I have nothing to show you because they're still in the box. They have to be put together, and maybe by this time next week, I'll have something to show you. But in the meantime, I am doing some reorganization. If you look over my shoulder, you will see, oops, sorry, excuse me, hiccups. Yeah, I have a little nervousness in my system today. I'll tell you what that's all about too later. But here's what the shelves I'm talking about look like. They're only 6 inches deep, which is perfect. They're going to fit the spot where I want to put them. They'll fit in there perfectly, and I don't want them sticking way out. It's just enough to handle like fat quarter bundles with it. So, you know, and I debated on whether I wanted cupboard doors on them. I could have got this unit with a door, but you know what happens when you start putting things where you can't see them, out of sight, out of mind, and they accumulate and you forget what you have, and then you buy more. So this way I will have them on display. And also, fat quarter bundles are pretty, I think. So I think that'll look quite nice. But in the meanwhile, I've been cleaning out my rust carts, which you can't see right now because they're back in another corner. That's where I was keeping a lot of my fat quarter bundles and stuff, and it's just getting junky looking, and it's taking up floor space. So I am moving them to the top shelf. If you notice over above the Tracy Perks blocks up there are fat quarters all along that shelf. That shelf used to have 3D printed pin cushions, which I did when I first got my first 3D printers like about 4 years ago or so. I was making those. Well, they've been up there catching dust, and believe me, there was a lot of dust. Oh my God, I think I heard when I was cleaning that shelf off, them growl. Yeah, they were mean buggers, those dust bunnies. But they're gone now. all gone, all nice and clean. And those are up there, and I can see them and know what I've got. Again, when they were in the Ruscots, the little carts on wheels, yeah, they were all piled up in there. I didn't know what I had. In fact, I wouldn't even search through them. It was discouraging. I'd rather go out and buy new ones than that. And that's not good. That's what I'm trying to break myself of. So after the shelves go up and everything, I have some other plans for things. And well, I'll talk about those when I talk about the 3D prints because, oh, here, this is what the rust cuts look like. Oops, that's the wrong one. Here we go. There's what I'm talking about. That's what they look like. Bit of a mess, aren't they? So I'm getting rid of those. When I took this picture, I still had a lot of those things on here, but now they're getting almost empty, and I have to figure out where I'm going to put these. I am thinking they might be able to go out into the Lucy room or one of them, but I don't know. Lucy room's kind of full too. Another place I need to purge, but we shall see. Oh, I have my pictures out of order. I'm sorry. Here is what I was talking about too, the top shelf. Now I have more boxes since I put those up, took this picture, but I 3D printed the boxes just to keep everything standing up nice and neat, and I can see them. And the other thing too is if I want to take something out, because they're a little, I'm short, so these are a little bit taller than me up there, I can just grab the box that has whatever I want in it and just pull it down, take out what I want, put the box back up. That's my theory. We'll see how that works. Okay, I don't think I have anything else to show you. Oh, yes, I do. Okay, this old cabinet's been on the wall for 30 years. When I first moved into this room, when we got into this house, this was always going to be my office kind of a thing when I was teaching, and over time it became my craft room, and then that evolved into my sewing area. But I always have had this cabinet, and this cabinet, do I have a picture of it, what it's like inside? Yeah. Those doors open up. I made some more of those boxes, and I put some loose bundles of fabric and some charm packs and that in there. And they just shut up like that. So I'm utilizing it. This was originally meant to be a CD cabinet. It held your CDs. Then, of course, CDs have gone by the wayside. Then it became a holder for all of my craft markers and pens and pencils and things like that. And now it's for my fabric. You will notice this one door in here. Yeah, this kind of looks a little rough. In the picture, the black paint that I use, just acrylic paint, you can see where I painted it, but in real life, you really don't see that that way. It's just funny, just the way the lighting is on it. But anyways, yeah, I might do something more to that, decorate it a little bit more. But you see on my label, does not open. I had a little problem. Go back to this picture. You notice here when you open this up, this tilts out and holds these. Well, this drawer is now missing because it broke, and I could not fix it. I mean, this is an IKEA thing. They don't make this anymore, obviously, because it's 30 years old. But it's all press board, right? And that stuff just, when it breaks, it just goes to flakes. It's sawdust, basically. I did try to fix it, but I didn't have any luck. So I decided, okay, we just won't be using that drawer. So I screw nailed it shut. I put a screw in the side of it. You can't open that up. And that, yes, I lost a little bit of storage space, but that's okay. I can live with that. And the other thing too is, you see over off to the side, these are my dies, some of my dies for my AccuQuilt. And I have a whole bunch of them down below at the base of this, and it blocks two other drawers. I can't open those drawers up while those, well, I have to move the dies back and forth. So I may find a different location for those dies, and if I do, then I will continue what I was doing with the other drawers, for putting the fat quarters in. but we'll see. Right now, I don't know where those dies are going to go, so they're going to stay there for now until, I do more purging. And there's a lot of purging to do. Okay, so that's my plans. I have another plan, and it involves, well, let's see here. Do I want to talk about this right at the moment? Yeah, what the heck? It's up here on the screen. These are risers. These are 3D printed, and they're adjustable. You screw them up or screw them down to get the right height that you want. And I made quite a few of these. I printed, there's 2 risers glued together in each case here to get them up to the height, to be able to adjust them to the height that I want. So I had to print 44 of these, as you see. So it took a couple of days, 3 days, 4 days. I was constantly going day and night, and I got them all. Now, this is my theory. I have a big board, 3/4 inch plywood. That's huge. That is my island, which is my cutting area in my sewing room. That board is sitting on top of IKEA Alex shelving units. And that's where I keep a lot of my other fabrics and my tools and things like that. And it's great for that. However, I also have, and that board is covered in a canvas-like material. Well, actually it's canvas. And then my cutting mats are all on top of that, and it works dandy for that. However, my sewing machine is at one end, and it's not actually sitting on that. It's on its own little thing beyond. It'd make more sense if I had a picture showing you this, but I will show you when I get this system going what that looks like. My idea is this. With these risers, I can raise that huge board up so that it will be level with my extended sewing table. Already to the left of my sewing machine, I have a table on a couple of risers that is level with the edge on my left side. Now it will be level in front. So if I've got a heavy quilt that I'm trying to quilt, put binding on or whatever, I don't have to constantly be worried about it getting caught on the edges of things as it drops over, cascades over the edge of the extended table on the sewing machine. That's my theory. We'll see how this pans out, and I will report back to you when I do that. It's going to take 2 of us, Walter and myself, both of us, to lift this big board off, and I have to adjust all of these legs and then put it back on. I'm probably going to put some alien tape on this. We'll see if it moves at all. It may not move because it's fairly heavy. But I don't want it shifting around. So I can put a little piece of alien tape on these. That'll hold them in place underneath, keep it from sliding around. This is my theory. It's all in my head. We'll see if what's in my head translates into what I'm telling you that I'm hoping it will. I think it will work. On top of it all, bonus, because this is going to raise that board 3 inches off the surface of the Alex units underneath, I will have 3 inches of storage space where I can slide some of my rulers, or that I use frequently, right underneath my cutting tape. So it'll serve as storage as well, and convenience. We shall see. We shall see. Yeah, it's all part of the great plan. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What's that taking me to? I'm just going through my pictures here. Yeah, I think... Okay, I think I forgot to put a couple of pictures in, so I need to do that. Okay, so highlights from my videos from last week. Well, on Idiot Quilter, I showed you more Christmas fabric that I purchased. Yes, did I need more? Yes. That's all I'm going to say about that. I went to Ultimate Sewing, and they had their Christmas fabric out. Yay, and they had some fabric on there I have never seen before. So I had to have it. So I bought it and I showed that to you last week. And there were other things we talked about as well, besides the Christmas fabric. So Chatty, we did a whole thing, Walter and I, on using red snappers for holding your backing fabric on your long arm, because there are different methods that one can use for this. Red snappers is the one I prefer to use, and I know there is some controversy over using red snappers, so we thought we'd show how we use them, and we did. And on So Chatty, of course, we talked about, what I just talked about, and in more detail about the whole Canadian-US relations thing. Okay, coming events. Well, this week we have got Sewing with Stephen as usual on Wednesdays. Link is in the show notes. And I'm having a pop-up sew day. Now, originally this was supposed to have been this past Saturday, but we were off on to a barbecue. And we talked a little bit about that too on Stephen and Walter Live. So if you want to check out that, that's where it is. So this Saturday, I moved it to this Saturday, August 29th, pop-up sew day. If you've never been to a pop-up sew day, it's free. I open the virtual doors. It is a Zoom link. It is not a YouTube Live at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, but you don't have to be there at 8. You can come and go as you please, whatever fits your schedule for that day. If you can only spend an hour or two, that is just fine. If you want to spend the whole day, that's great. Work on whatever you want to work on. Come prepared to have a good time. Yeah. And if it happens to be raining, well, it's a perfect day for a pop-up sew day, isn't it? In the summer, anyways. Not that I'm wishing for it to rain, but, I'll be here. So, yeah. So, those of you on my mailing list, I sent it out already this morning, the link. And for everybody else, it's in the show notes of all the videos that go up this week, including this one. It was also in the Stephen and Walter live video from yesterday. Okay, so speaking of weather, so here's what things are looking like outside my front door. It is actually kind of on the coolish side this morning. When I first got up, it was like about 12 degrees Celsius, which is what? 12 and 12 is 24, about 54 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a bit on the cool side. And right now it has gone up a little bit. It's 14 degrees Celsius. So that's about 58 roughly Fahrenheit. So, a little cooler, which is, I hate to say it, but is there a little bit of fall in the air? It's too late. It's too early. It's too early. I'm not done with summer yet. They're calling for drizzle right now, light rain in the forecast, and a high of 20 degrees, which is room temperature. So, yeah. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be raining for most of the day, according to this, until about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock tonight. So, but light rain, drizzly kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's not a very nice looking day out there right now. And I have not yet been for my walk, and I may not go for a walk today, maybe this afternoon, because I have something else that I haven't come to yet that I'm got on my mind. And it'll explain why you might be getting a sense that I'm a little disjointed about things. So anyways, that's the weather. Let's talk a little bit about how things are growing. Well, I don't really have any major pictures for you. Let me see what I do have. So I picked some of our jalapenos, and we have a bumper crop of jalapenos and hot chili peppers. This is just a few that I picked. I left some of the smaller ones on so that at least with the jalapenos, if you leave them on long enough, they should turn red, some of them. So I'm leaving those to see if that'll work. The chili peppers, I have both green and red ones right now. So I brought them in, I washed them, and then I took some of the jalapenos and I cut them up into like rings, and I have frozen those for future cooking. And I also took the whole jalapenos and the whole chili peppers, and I put them in plastic containers and Ziploc bags after I had washed them and dried them all, and they're in the freezer as well. So these are all for cooking purposes. Now, will we use this many jalapenos over the next year? Probably not. And I've got more coming. So the more that are coming, I will probably take and pickle them like I did last year along with regular peppers, because that's really kind of nice. I love those, throwing them in a salad or something like that. So yeah, we've had a bumper crop of peppers. The green peppers are doing well. There's going to be a lot of those coming, but I'm leaving some of those on the vine or on the plant so they'll go turn colors. Some are turning orange right now, and I'm hoping to get some that will go red too, so we'll have a nice variety of colors. And last week I talked all about peppers and what I've learned about peppers. So yeah, things are going nicely on the garden, but of course we're coming to that point in the summer where things will start to slow down shortly, and within another couple of weeks there won't be anything really much left, I don't think. But what to do with your cucumbers? Now let me just see if I can find my picture, because I did a little cooking experiment, and I'm still not completely sold on how these turned out, but our cucumbers are yellow. Now I looked that up. Why are our cucumbers, they start out green but they very quickly become yellow? And it could be that they're overripe, or it could be that that's the variety of them. But anyways, I have a pile of these yellow cucumbers. So I looked up how to use yellow cucumbers for making pickles. And what they said to do was, because the skin would be very tough on them and bitter, to peel them, then take out the seeds, and then basically cut them into spears, into wedge pieces or chunks, and pickle them. And that's what I did. Now, they're in there with pickling spices, the brine, the whole bit. I'm a little iffy about my seal on the two bigger jars. And yes, my cucumbers are floating. I looked that up to see if that was a problem. They said, nope, as long as they're covered, that's okay. They may sink after a while in the jar. It's just I didn't pack them tight enough. So I did, they're all in the fridge right now, as you see them. And these are all that I made. The little jar I kept in the fridge upstairs, and last night, it had been in the fridge now for a couple of days, I opened it to try it. They're actually very tasty. They have a crunch to them. They're not terribly crunchy, but they're not mushy, and they taste really good. So I'm thinking those other jars, I keep my eye on them. They're in the fridge, and yeah, I might use them. I might take them and chop them up and put them in salads, things like that. Eat them as a condiment or something like that. But yeah, I was surprised. But ideally, we should have planted what they call pickling cucumbers and got them when they were small and done them that way. Next year, lesson for next year. So anyways, that's how the gardens are growing. The grow lights, there's nothing really to show. It's lettuce. We've already started harvesting some of the lettuce for our salads. We're going to make a conscientious effort this year to eat pretty much just our lettuce. We were buying packages of mixes at Costco, which I really quite love because they were filled with things like kale and a few other things, cabbage, and that gave your salad a nice crunch. But the company that Costco buys them from has this pesticide problem. And although they claim now that no, that was not a problem for this particular company and for the Canadian distributor of it, but they are still an American company. So we're boycotting it. Yes, we are making a conscientious effort to make sure that everything our hands touch when it comes to food, produce, or anything for that matter, to make sure we spend a couple of minutes making sure that this is not a product of the USA. And I think you know why. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, gardens are coming. We still have lots of little tomatoes, tons on there, and there's still a few cucumbers coming on too. So, yep, it's been a fairly successful year of growing. Oh, and beans. beans coming out of the yin yang. You know, green beans, yellow beans, wax beans, all of that. So Walter has been picking them and blanching them and then putting them in the freezer from freezing them. Well, so we'll have lots and lots of beans, and we like beans. So we eat a lot of green beans and yellow beans. So this is great. Well, another thing that are Canadian grown, made, organic, and cheap. Yeah. Okay. So I've already shown you everything on the 3D printing that I have done, so I don't need to go there. Okay, let's talk I kind of talked about the thrift stores earlier, and yeah, I did some research. And of course, I like to do research with using AI. And yes, I try to verify the information that AI sends to me because, you know, you have to. It's not always accurate. Okay, I just opened that and I don't know where it went. Here we go. Okay, so I was talking about thrift stores and the problem I'm having with the one that's nearest us. Well, there is, if you want to get rid of old clothing, because that's really what is probably the majority of the things that go to these thrift stores, are. So yes, I've been hearing rumors that some thrift stores are refusing to take more clothing in because they're overloaded. And I thought, well, why is that? So I found this, the root causes of overload. Fast fashion cycles, brands like, and they list a few things here, millions of cheap trend-dependent items weekly. Consumers discard them quickly, channeling massive volumes into donation bins. So we are part of the problem here when we think we're doing wonderfully by donating these clothes so they won't go into landfill, and that is great. But the turnover in new clothes that people are buying is becoming ridiculous. And in some of these more online places like Temu and that, where you can get clothes at ridiculously cheap prices, and they're also ridiculously cheaply made, and the whole bit, well, people are wearing them for a bit, then taking them off to the thrift stores, to the charity shops. So they're being overloaded there. And of course, this whole idea of what they call guilt-free dumping, which I just said, we think we're doing the environment a favor by donating our old clothes to these thrift stores and everything, so they're getting recycled. But are they being recycled? If they've got an overload, and I am sure they're going through, the people at the thrift stores go through the stuff and decide what's going to sell and what's not, so that it's just a short stop until eventually many of these things still end up in landfill. And now that they have an overload, well, what are people going to do? They're going to put it in landfill. Yeah. Because the charity shops are not going to take it. They also talk about gender disparity. The vast majority of the textile surplus is concentrated in women's apparel, with fast cycling trends leaving thrift racks stuffed with lightly worn or synthetic fast fashion items. And you know, my mother was a great one for this. She would buy a new outfit, wear it once, and then she'd take it down to our local thrift store, consignment shop, basically. She made a little money off the sell of it. Well, they used to put her at the front of the line because when they saw her coming, they wanted her stuff because, as I said, literally my mother wear it once, and that would be it. And she always bought fairly nice things, like good quality fashion and stuff like that. Put my father in the poorhouse with that. So, yeah. So there's that. For us men, we don't go through clothes as fast. Like I'm telling you, my wardrobe is made up of the shirts that Walter made for me, and in the summer, a couple of pairs of shorts, which I've probably had for years. Actually, I think this year I bought 2 new pairs of shorts for the first time in many years. And jeans in the winter, black jeans. Yep. And jeans don't wear out that quickly. So, you know, I'm not taking a lot of stuff to these charity shops, and I have a feeling there's a lot of men like that as well. But ladies' fashions, you know, fashion changes, the trends and everything much more rapidly it does in men's fashion. So yeah, they have a lot more to donate. And then they talk about some other issues about all of this rising costs, blah, 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 blah. But it's a problem because you got to think about it. If you have a local charity shop or thrift store that you're used to donating things to, and they're not taking those things anymore, where's it going to go? So maybe we should be investigating more on the, it's trendy. It has been trendy for a while of, found fabric for making new things like quilts, clothes, table runners, and stuff like that. I have never explored that possibility. Maybe I should. The only thing, and I'll tell you why I don't explore that possibility. When I walk into a thrift store, I come out feeling grubby. I mean, there's something, it's just me. And I know they wash this stuff, or they're supposed to wash the stuff. And people are supposed to donate stuff that has been cleaned as well. But there's something about touching other people's clothes that bothers me. So that's why I've never really gotten into this whole thing of going in and finding, old bed sheets, old shirts and towels and stuff and making something else out of them. Maybe I should get over that, and maybe I should try it out. Who knows? Maybe I'll find a new interest. Okay. Well, that brings me to the end of today's episode, but I do want to just tell you why I've been a little weird. And you're saying, what do you mean a little? You're always this way. And true. My mind isn't here. My mind is filled with anxiety right now. Why? Because I have a dentist appointment at 10 o'clock. I hate the dentist. The last time I was at the dentist for a cleaning and they decided that there were a couple of suspicious cavity looking spots on my wisdom teeth at the back, and they put me through sheer hell with that. And I'll admit, it sounds foolish to say. I'm a 69-year-old man, but I was traumatized. Well, it wasn't just that event that traumatized me. I have been traumatized about the dentist since I was 6 years old when I went to my first dentist, and he did all kinds of things with his torture chamber full of tools and no freezing or anything like that. And that was my first experience with the dentist. And ever since that day, I have been paranoid. I did not sleep well last night. I tried to get a grip. I'm going in for a cleaning. It's just a cleaning. But when they're in there with their little torture tools and they're scraping away, and it goes on for days, it feels like I am in a panic mode. Now, after that experience that I had a few months ago with my last cleaning, and then ultimately this other work that needed to be done, and they did it on the same day. And they had a horrible, well, it was a dentist I'd never had before in there. The main dentist was not in that day. And they had a temporary technician that was, doing the stuff with the tube in your mouth and all that, and mostly throwing it down my throat. And it was not a good experience for me. The whole bit. So I'm going in today to have a cleaning. I'm hoping they don't find anything else. I'm trying to get myself calmed down. Coffee's probably not a good thing for that, but I'm having it anyways. And yeah, not looking forward to this at all. And you're going to say, well, if it gives you that much stress and everything, why are you bothering? Exactly. Well, here's the problem. Both my parents had bad teeth. And I don't want to be my parents. I look after my teeth. I am obsessive about my teeth. I thoroughly brush at least 3 times a day, if not 4. I use my water pick faithfully at least 3 times a day, if not 4. And I floss faithfully 3 to 4 times a day. Basically, that is my routine for my teeth. So, yeah, I go in every 4 months for a cleaning. That was by the recommendation of another dental hygienist that I do not care for. That was in this place, and I have not had her. I don't know if she's even there still. The one that I have now, I like her. Nice personality. She has a calming, soothing way about herself. But nevertheless, she's still in there with her torture devices scraping the hell out of me. Now I'm thinking, look, this was recommended, it was recommended not because of oral health. It was recommended that I go more frequently because my insurance would allow for it. Yeah, I have dental insurance. It pays for most common things like cleanings, checkups, that. It pays about 85% of the bill. I pay the other 15%. But I still have to pay into the insurance. That's not free. So, yeah. I'm going to say to the dental hygienist today when she is booking my next appointment for it, make it 6 months. I used to go every 6 months. I used to go once a year. That's way back when I was working. That was what my insurance covered through my employer at the time. Then it went to 9 months. And then I was able to do it every 6 months. Well, now because they do this unit thing, which I do not totally understand how that works, I apparently could go like every 4 months, 3 times a year on that, have all my coverage. No, I got to take back some control in this situation. I'm going to start with going 6 months. And I'm going to say to the dental hygienist, you know why? And I'll tell her exactly what I've just told you. And I'm going to say, look, I thought that if I went more frequently, you would be spending less time in my mouth. I'm not finding that. It's taking about the same amount of time. And I'm going to be upfront with her. I'm going to say, this gives me a lot of anxiety. A lot of anxiety. So this is why I'm doing this. I'm still going to have anxiety. I always will when it comes to a dentist. But at least it'll be longer periods of time. I tell you, 2 weeks. It starts 2 weeks before I go to the dentist. I know you think I'm crazy about this. Everybody has their traumas in their life. Everybody has paranoia of some sort. This is mine. And if there was something I could take that would not affect the way my brain works while I'm at the dentist, something that would relax me and I could still drive a car when I came out, I would take it. I would. I mean, I know they have gas, but that's never been offered to me, and I don't know about that either because I don't know what kind of reaction I would have to it, because some people do have reactions to those kind of things that are not positive. So anyways, that's why I'm a little bit today. Okay? So sorry about that. I should be better tomorrow. I hope, yeah, for when I do Idiot Quilter. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you have a great day. Check all the other things out. I hope to see some of you on Sewing with Steven on Wednesday, and I hope to see many of you on the Pop-Up Sew Day if you can make it. It would be great. So we'll see you then. Talk to you later. Bye for now. Hi, I'm just going to interrupt my program for just 1 second to remind you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for future notifications. That's all I ask of you. Show me a little love. Thanks.